All right, so 5.6b, we're still talking about special segments in triangles. So we're given this figure right here, and we're asked to determine if this solid black line, that's a little bit thicker than the rest of them, we're asked to determine if can be classified as an altitude, an angle bisector, a median, a perpendicular bisector, or none of the above. So let's look at this one. So for it to be an altitude, it needs to start at one of the vertices and then come down and be perpendicular to the side that is opposite from the vertex that it begins at. So, because it indeed does that, we're going to call this thing an altitude. But let's see if it's other things as well. So, for it to be an angle bisector, it would need to, again, start at one of the vertices, cut through, and then the two angles it creates would need to be congruent to one another. So we can see right here that these two angles are congruent to one another based off the fact that they have the same number of curves right in there, okay? They both have one curve, and because of that, we can classify this line as an angle bisector as well. So next up we have, is it a median? Okay, so a median is going to begin from a vertex and come down, and it's going to hit the line opposite from the angle it starts at the midpoint. So we can tell that it's at the midpoint of this line because the two lines that are created when I split this thing in two are equal to each other because they've got the same number of tick marks right here. So because of that, we can know this thing is also a median. And now for a perpendicular bisector. So a perpendicular bisector is just a line that cuts somewhere in the triangle, not necessarily from one of the vertices, but it cuts through the triangle somewhere and is perpendicular to a side but it also bisects that side as well. So because of that, we can see this line is perpendicular to this side. We see that because it creates that right angle. And it's bisecting this side because of the two tick marks. Okay, they both have one tick mark, which tells me that these two sides are congruent. So because of that, this line technically qualifies as an altitude, an angle bisector, a median, and a perpendicular bisector.